Pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Tyler Schweickert. Schweik, I think you go by, yeah? Schweiky?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, we're chatting before we hit record here. We haven't seen you since like 2020 when you guys did the Goalie Summit. Amazing session, you and Johnny. So thank you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to be back on. It's been a couple of years for sure.
Love it. Well, I'd love to hear the story of when you first jumped into goal. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so you actually sent me some of the questions the other day. I kind of started thinking about it again. I was actually playing like street hockey, and we needed a goalie, and so I hopped in net playing street hockey. I was taking shots right and left. Wasn't really like wasn't complaining or anything. And we were all the guys we were playing with. We'd all played on like a club team. This was probably 6th or 7th grade, I think. And we needed a goalie, and that was like the one area we needed on the team. We didn't have one. And they're like, you might as well give it a try. You know, like, pretty good at playing hockey goalie. Can't be too different. So that was 6th grade, and then it just took off after that. I hopped in one summer. Never looked back after that one.
Yeah, love it. Now you grew up like in SoCal, yeah? Is that it's a pretty, I don't know, the lacrosse scene is growing pretty heavily, yeah?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, compared to what it was when I was a kid, it's definitely gotten a lot bigger. I think one of the big things is like there's on all the club teams I've played on aren't even around anymore. So there's definitely been a lot of, changing over the years, but it's definitely grown to be a pretty big lacrosse scene, both in the club and high school. You got a lot of teams. You got like Torrey Pines.
Yeah.
I coach at Modern Day. A lot of these schools are starting to go back east and play and challenge some of these, big time, big name schools back there. So it's definitely growing both in the club scene and definitely the high school scene as well.
Yeah, I love it. So when you first jumped into goal, how did you go about then actually learning how to make saves?
So actually, I was lucky because my head club coach was a goalie in college. And so basically I had goalie training right from the beginning. And we would spend, the first 30 minutes to an hour of practice every day. My first 2 years, just kind of, working on stuff, teaching me how to play. And so there's not a lot of kids that get that, especially in Southern California. There's very few goalie coaches out here. And so I was lucky in that aspect. Danny Kirkpatrick, he's actually the women's coach now at Chapman. So I got him basically firsthand experience every single day. For a solid 2 years. And I think that's honestly why I was able to, jumpstart my career, I guess, at an early age, because of that training I had.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just having somebody to kind of show you the ropes at that young age is so key. Like you even see some goalies like make it all the way to like, high school or like sometimes like even college level. And they just have such like blatant flaws in their game because nobody has like, they're just pure athletes, you know what I mean? But no one has really corrected them. And so they have this like really bizarre stance. And then they get to college and it's like, hey, don't do that. Like, relax your hands or your arms. And then all of a sudden, like their game just takes off. So that was really cool that you were able to get that coaching at such an early age. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I think like all your fundamentals, like, coaching for me now, coaching young goalies, I love getting goalies when they're young because, you're able to kind of build their fundamental base and like their everything they're going to do in the future. Whereas you get, like you said, you get kids who are in high school or college goalies who, didn't necessarily have that coaching, don't have that fundamental base. It's kind of hard to, go back and change things when they've been doing it so like one way for so long. And for a lot of these guys, it actually works just because they're so athletic. It's really hard to kind of make changes and stuff.
Yeah. And when you do make a change, like oftentimes like performance goes down a little bit before it goes up. So like, so you make a change and then they don't like it because it goes down, but sometimes you do have to stick through it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What about for you when you were first starting? Was, I was pretty afraid of the ball. That's kind of a common thing that youth goalies have to overcome. What were some things that you were working on earlier in your career?
Honestly, I'd say I wasn't afraid of the ball when I first started. It wasn't until I got to high school. My freshman year, I got thrown in the goal. I was, 13 years old, and I was on varsity, and we had kids who were 6'4", 6'5", shooting the ball, 100 miles an hour. And that's kind of like, that's when I was like, there was a solid like 2 or 3 months where I was kind of flinching before every shot. And it took me a while to kind of get used to that. So I think like it wasn't right away, but it was definitely like when I got to high school, there was definitely some kind of a little bit of a dip or a flinch before guys would step in. Especially, once you kind of get to know guys and play with guys for a little bit, you start to figure out who has the fast shot, whose shot don't you want to get hit by. And that's when you start to kind of flinch a little bit. And so for me, it was kind of just really just, finding a way to relax in the goal, and just kind of block everything else out. And just kind of know that like you might get hit by a ball, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to kill you at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the mindset I had to go through at least my freshman year of high school. There's definitely that kind of mindset.
And how'd you go about, it's easy to say like have that mindset, but then all of a sudden someone's cranking up, and it's like, oh man, here we go again. Were there drills that you did, or like, I guess, how did you sort of, lock in that mindset?
I think it was honestly, I would stay after with the guys and get shot on in practice, and eventually I was seeing so many shots that slowly that dip faded away. I mean, my freshman year, I told our defense coach, I was like, listen, can you watch me during practice? If you see me dipping, just yell at me, and then just continue yelling at me, and basically just kind of work that out of your game. And then just seeing so many shots to where you finally started to get comfortable, I think was my biggest thing. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a specific drill. Like in high school, I didn't have a goalie coach, so it was kind of like, you get your shot on, your warm up, and then you have a few minutes to kind of do whatever you want to do by yourself, and then you're in drills. So it was kind of just seeing as many shots for me in high school as I could to kind of break that bad habit, I guess, is kind of what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reps, the reps just help so much with a lot of different things, but if you're afraid of the ball, and you could certainly do some other things like use tennis balls or those little soft squishy balls, like right when you're getting started, right. Just to, not have to take one off the shin unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But also too, I think that for young goalies, like your desire or like your want to make the save has to really like outweigh this feeling of fear of getting hit with the ball. And like when I was playing, our team did a really good job of like celebrating every save, even if it just hit me right in the head and I did nothing. It was like, wow, nice save, Damon. So like, that was kind of my reward. And so I ended up not really caring if I got hit, because I knew that like the team was going to get pumped.
It's definitely, I mean, I've been a part of both types of teams. You definitely have some teams where you make saves and everybody's quiet, nobody says anything, and those definitely aren't fun teams to be a part of. So
right. Yeah. Well, that's a bummer. Was that like your high school team or a club team?
That was just like that was probably like 1 year of youth, and then one summer on a club team, and I jumped around different club teams. And club is different because it's like, I mean, you're just kind of a lot of times thrown on random teams with a bunch of guys.
Right.
So I never really had that problem in high school or college, because you're with those guys for so long. You spend almost every day together.
Right.
It's more like those random club teams you would hop on. But yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Like once you get to some sort of like competitive, practicing with the guys every day, like you form this bond, and like then you're all rooting for each other and you got each other's back. So yeah, but the club, yeah, you're right. Or even like summer pickup ball. No one really cares about each other. They're just out there to play. That's cool. What would you say is your favorite thing about being the goalie, Tyler?
Favorite thing, I would say just kind of like, you're kind of everyone looks at you to kind of, big moments, come up with that big save. That's kind of, especially as I got into college, that's kind of one thing that I loved, to have that kind of pressure. It was always the pressure for me, and like just a big moment and the spotlight's kind of on you in a sense. It's not always the best, because when you lose, everyone looks at you and it's your fault. But when you win, it's also generally the offense is getting the pat on the back for that. So, but I just kind of like the spotlight, the feeling of making saves, making big time saves and big time moments was kind of always the thing that kind of kept me going and stuff.
Yeah, we got the spotlight, us lacrosse goalies, that's for sure. Like you said, it can be good or bad, like it can be great when you're playing well, but when you don't want that spotlight, there's nowhere to hide out there.
No, yeah, definitely not.
That's awesome. So when did you after high school you went to Limestone first?
Yeah, I went to Limestone and then I transferred to Concordia.
Got it. Yeah. When did you decide like, oh, I want to play lacrosse at in college, and how did your recruiting process work?
I'd say probably like my sophomore year kind of became like a like I could actually do this kind of thing. It was never really a thought before. It's always like a dream, like, oh, I want to do that. It was kind of sophomore year. My coach came up to me. He's kind of like, do you want to play the next level? Like, what's your mindset? And so I was like, yeah. So, I mean, back then it wasn't like it is now where you can't get contacted or can't have any contact until I think it's like going this September going into your junior year. Back then it was basically you could commit at any point in your life. Like there was kids I know that would commit in 8th grade to play college lacrosse. And it's like, so I kind of started that recruiting process my sophomore year. I played football in high school too, so my summers weren't all just lacrosse. So I was, I'd be playing club lacrosse, every weekend, every chance I got. But it wasn't like it is now with some of these kids that are traveling and playing lacrosse every single day of the summer. So that's kind of just started reaching out to coaches, playing in showcases, starting to get looks and stuff like that. That's kind of how it went, and just kind of, I started to get offers and stuff like that, and went to Limestone, and they sit you down. And at the time, they had won, I think, 3 of the last 4 national championships. And so you're 17-year-old. I committed my junior year, so 16, 17-year-old kid. They sit you down with all the national championship trophies and rings in front of you. It's kind of hard to say no to that. So kind of how I ended up there.
Yeah, powerful recruiting process, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Who was the coach at that time?
JB Clark.
Okay.
So he's now the head coach at Tampa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then, so what was the school like itself?
It was very small. It's honestly kind of like size-wise, like Concordia a lot. Very small school, under around 2,000 undergrad.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But it was almost everyone on campus was athletes. So we had a football team, and then we had basically every sport you would have at a college. So it was like somewhere around 50 or 60% athletes, I think. So it was very athlete based. The mindset of the school was athletes. The class schedules are built around athletics purely, which is kind of nice. It was in the South, and honestly, I love the South. I would move back to the South in a heartbeat. It was definitely not in the greatest location, but you're close to Charleston, you're close to Charlotte. We were 45 minutes south of Charlotte. We'd go to Clemson or University of South Carolina any chance we got. So it was definitely a lot of fun. The campus itself was nice. We had brand new, like, multi-million-dollar dorms. I was the second class that got to stay in those. So those were super nice. It was a good time. It was definitely a change of scenery for me from being from Southern California and then jumping to South Carolina. But I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. Did you get some culture shock going down to the South there?
Oh,
Call
yeah.
people sir and ma'am a little bit more?
Yeah, I definitely did. And the food's definitely different. And I love barbecue. I love Southern food. So it was definitely a culture shock, but I'm glad I did it. It was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah. So it sounds like a great time. And then you end up transferring to Concordia. What went into that decision?
So I actually had some injury problems at Limestone, and I just kind of wanted to get closer to home. So kind of started looking around, and one of my senior high school coach was best friends with the coach at Concordia at the time. Mm-hmm. And I honestly had no idea Concordia. I grew up 20 minutes from Concordia. I had no idea Concordia existed. I had played football games in the high school that like borders Concordia. I had no idea what it was. And so it was like, I had to make a decision pretty quickly. And they said they needed a goalie. And so for me, it was kind of like, I love South Carolina, but I could go back home, play lacrosse, and live 5-10 minutes from Newport Beach. And I live in Huntington Beach now, but that was it was an easy decision to kind of come back here, even though I really didn't know what I was walking into. I had no idea what the MCLA was, any of that. But I guess 5 years later, it's definitely probably the best decision I made in my life for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Before you talk about your MCLA experience, like when you get to college, Limestone, or I guess even maybe when you transferred, did your goalie game change at all? And if so, like how so?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. And honestly, it changed a lot over the years just based off of, injuries I had, and just getting older. I definitely changed the way I played, like the arc. I never really played a high arc. I kind of, in high school, I played a medium arc, I'd say. And then by my senior year, I was basically standing on the goal line, or my fifth year standing on the goal line, just because my knees and ankles were so beat up that that was the easiest way for me to play. So I definitely changed a lot. And honestly, at high school, I was taught to step straight at the ball. As soon as I got to college, I was basically told that was completely incorrect, and to kind of step at a 45 or more flat line. And honestly, as soon as I started, they kind of explained why. It made so much more sense to me. I was cutting like the angle off the ball. So I definitely, like, as soon as I got to college, a lot of my goalie, game, I guess, and the way I played was changed at Limestone and then at Concordia as well. All for the better. And just kind of like every year, there would be something I would see or try. I would see and then I'd try it out, kind of see, whether it helped my game or hurt my game, kind of always trying to find little tweaks I can make. So I'd definitely say like my game definitely changed almost every year, I'd say.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, do you, like, when you're working with youth at Crease Coach, do you still preach stepping laterally even with that young age, or can they do more of the 45, or what's your thoughts
40,
on that?
more like 45
Yeah.
for young guys, and even like high school kids too, if they can do it. And then as you get older, obviously, I don't like teaching like step straight down a goal line, unless it's like we need to do that. It's kind of like that 45 or anywhere between that flat line and that 45.
Yeah.
Just kind of make sure that, that way, as long as your stick misses the ball, now your body's at least behind your stick, you're kind of covering that whole cage up. Whereas if we're stepping straight out at the ball, there's those almost alleys on your body.
Yeah.
That ball can kind of sneak by if you don't get it completely with your stick.
Yeah, that's what I subscribe to as well, as my theory of, like, especially at the youth, like, stepping at that 45 and sort of cutting down that angle, getting your body behind the ball. And then as you get older, yeah, like in college or your body gets bigger, you do see a lot of guys actually step, like not lateral, pure lateral.
Yeah.
But I do like teaching at the very beginning that 45, because I think it gets kids in the mindset of attacking the ball too, which I like quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing. I think like that's back to like when I was growing up and playing. I first started, it was kind of like take, like, my coach would be like, drive your kneecap straight to the ball. Well, now it's like, if you're doing that and you miss the ball, it's going to go in. So I think definitely the 45 is probably the way to go, I'd say, especially coaching younger goalies. It gets them going towards the ball. It gets them, kind of not trying to not be afraid of the ball, while still covering up as much cage as possible during any shot and stuff.
Yeah, love it. What about some of the, when you were in college or maybe in high school, some of the college guys or pro guys, were there any that you watched, any that you learned from? Anybody come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, John Galloway, I feel like every guy's going to say that. Watched Scotty Rogers a good amount. And then Johnny Rodriguez, who's actually my boss now. Which is kind of funny how that all works out. And then in college, I mean, it was all guys I had, played club with and stuff like that, or grown up playing with or playing against. So just, turning on ESPN and watching any sort of game, it would always be that's kind of the cool thing as you get older and into college. Like, now you get to watch your friends kind of play at that next level. So that was kind of like how I went about it in college. Just kind of watching guys that I had, played with or that were like a year or two ahead of me that I'd watched play, club tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah, love it. That's how I feel about with this podcast and interviewing a lot of these college goalies now. Like, then I'll like turn on the thing and watch them play, and I'm like, oh man, I remember chatting with that guy. That guy's awesome. That's cool. And so then you were watching Johnny, I guess at that time, he was on the Outlaws.
Yeah. So I mean, 2013. Yeah, he was on the Outlaws, and then I would go back and watch clips of him when he played at Salisbury. Mm-hmm. And even though we don't play, our games are completely different. Never have played like him. It was just always fun to watch him. He's very, explosive, super athletic goalie. He'd be flying all over the place, making crazy saves. So definitely not how I play, but it was a guy I watched a lot throughout high school and growing up and stuff.
Yeah, love it. And super active outside of the crease too. I mean, that was your whole guy's presentation on, or at least a big part of it at the Goalie Summit was, being an athlete outside of the crease as well, which is an amazing part of his game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go into then in the MCLA, not even sure what it is, like what the competition level is. it can kind of differ. I played in the MCLA at Cal, right? And it can kind of differ between schools. So how was it, how would you describe the program at Concordia?
At Concordia, I mean, it's definitely run. So the head coach now, Jesse Foss. The thing at Concordia has always been, oh, we're going to take this Division two, and it's probably going to happen here in the next year or two. Don't know if I was
Nice.
allowed to say that, but
All right.
it'll be
Lax Goalie
happening
Rat
here.
Podcast exclusive, baby.
Yeah, it'll be happening here pretty soon. But so it's run like an NCAA program, which was kind of nice for me. I didn't want to just go play, where you roll the balls out for once a week for a few hours and just play. Like it's a structured program. We have we practice at 6 a.m. every day. We have lifting, you have study hall, you have what's fully funded by the school.
Nice.
So it's basically been run like that's my entire time here. That's how it's been run. We have full support of the school. There's athletic scholarships. So basically, like you're playing at an NCAA program. We have to follow all the same rules every NCAA program does, drug testing, all that stuff. So
wow.
It's been run. It was for me. It was never really like you were in the MCLA in a sense, and it's honestly at the NCLA like the top, I'd say 20 teams are very, very competitive, especially over the last few years. And I quickly realized that as soon as I got there. And a lot of these schools are built with kids who are all Division I, Division II, Division III transfers. I remember playing Colorado Boulder like 4 years ago. They had probably 6 or 7 D1 transfers. And so it's like, it's not like you're playing a competition level you're playing is weak. It's very competitive lacrosse. And you're playing against still some of the best players around the country for sure.
Yeah, that was my experience as well. And at least on our team, I don't know how your guys is. Like, we had like, a couple guys that could probably play D1, but by the time the depth was just not there, right? Like we didn't have, 3 lines of middies who could all ball. By the time you got down to that third line of middies, it was, athletic dudes who were kind of learning the sport of lacrosse. I don't know how your team was.
My first few years at Concordia definitely was like that. I mean, we had like 27 kids and then 30 kids. So it was a very small roster. It was all kids that were legit players. Mm-hmm. But you'd have 2 lines of offense and then there's nothing after that. Not even like kids trying to figure out how to play. It's just nothing. And so, but now, I mean, I'll be an assistant coach at Concordia next year. We're maybe walking in the fall with a 55 man roster.
Yeah.
So it's definitely changed a lot since my time being there. But it's definitely starting to become more like an NCAA program, and because that's kind of direction we're heading in. But it was definitely at one point, very small roster, all guys that could play probably at any level, but still very small, and just kind of you have to grind games out every single week.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's awesome that it's going to go to the next level. I mean, that's kind of, the dream of every MCLA program, right? Is to like be a part of that. Cause when we played in the MCLA, like we paid dues, right? We were kind of running a lot of things like, our locker room was the side of the field to get changed. And, it's nice then to get that, I don't know, take it to the next level and kind of level up everything.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. And you guys got some big games on the roster. I was kind of looking at it before. Like you play Whittier, BYU, Cal. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year played Whittier, beat them actually pretty well. Lost to BYU in the last second. Beat Cal last year in the football stadium, which will definitely be the coolest game I've ever played in my life. Nice. Definitely not something I thought I would get to do ever. But that was very cool. And then this year, another hard schedule. We got South Carolina. We're going back to play at Liberty, at Virginia Tech, and then Cal still, BYU. So it's definitely a loaded schedule. We had an early entrance or early exit, I guess, to in the playoffs last year. So because we quickly made sure our schedule is definitely the hardest in the MCLA this year. So we got something to prove moving forward.
All right, man. Go get them. How's your goalie squad?
It's gonna be good. We got Daniel Yang, who's my backup last year, and then Ryan Richters, who's one of the goalies at Grand Canyon, actually transferred over to us. And then we have a couple incoming freshmen as well. So it'll be, well, it's like three goalies in the fall, 4 by the spring. So it should be an interesting one, interesting little battle there. So you get that starting spot.
Yeah, love it. Who ended up winning the championship last year? Is it BYU?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. All right. Go get them. Go get them. Any MCLA programs sometimes have some like weird rituals. Anything that you guys did that you can share on the podcast?
I honestly know. Like everyone kind of did their own thing before games. Yeah, I mean, I'd say we're pretty. It's a religious school, so you
Is it?
don't get away. Yeah, Concordia is a religious school, so everything's kind of we gotta be smart in what we do.
Yeah.
So there was definitely no weird rituals. Everyone kind of just, I mean, definitely everyone had pregame routines, stuff like that. But everyone kind of did their own thing, but as soon as it's time to lock it up, it was go time. Everyone kind of knew that, but everyone kind of did their own thing pregame, stuff like that.
You know what we did on our team? They don't do it anymore. I mean, the social media and everyone having like a camera in their pocket kind of changed the game on what you can do. But we did rookie haircuts. So
I mean, we do that. We do that before playoffs every year.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, so we still do that. A lot of guys will get mullets. We shaved the front half of a kid's hair one year and left the back half
naturally.
Yeah. So, and we'll do it like.
Did you ever go with the friar tuck? Like just leave
we had
one
a couple
like
kids.
loop?
Yeah, we had a couple of kids do that. I always would usually we'd just do freshman haircuts, and then slowly it turned into everybody. Because like after my freshman year, I was like, well, we're going to the playoffs. I still want to cut my hair. So I rocked the mullet, I think, for every year we went to the playoffs. But we had some pretty crazy haircuts. Some guys just dye their hair just ridiculous colors. And we would always do it before the SLC tournament. So you would have to basically go to school then for a solid 3 to 4 weeks, rocking that haircut before the MCLA tournament.
Yeah.
So you'd see guys just walking around with basically no hair and get a lot of looks at you for sure. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We had to keep ours for a week. But it was Berkeley. There's some crazy kids there. So I think we got less looks just because of the general population. But I had the like going out of, it was 1999, like the curtains, long hair curtains was really in style. So I had that. And then like, I was just, oh man, my hair was hilarious looking. But anyway, it's all in good fun. I don't know if they do that anymore. Kind of going back to the lacrosse goalie, like when when you're training, or even when you were training yourself, are there any specific drills that like are your kind of your go-tos?
So as I got into college, again, like we talked about before, just constantly seeing reps. I kind of would pick up different things here and there. Always footwork, finding a ladder or line hop, stuff like that, just to get your feet going. We actually started, I think it was about 2 years ago. We would start, me and our head coach, we would start boxing before every practice. Just get the mitts out, it works hand-eye, gets a little cardio going, stuff like that. So that's something that we do every once in a while. It was always a lot of fun. Watching guys would be warming up and all the goalies would just be standing there boxing, and it'd be everyone kind of be confused. At the first time, everyone was very confused over what was going on, but that's definitely one that I'd never seen before. We were kind of like, let's try it out, see what happens. So it was good to get a little workout in, and you get your hand-eye coordination in for the day. And then I would, in college, I tried to see as many shots as I could. One thing I started to find I like to do, I kind of started it probably about 2 years ago, honestly, because I was getting screened so much. We just were like, all right, well, might as well start working on screenshots. So we had those big football dummies, and we would have the goalie who's not in is basically holding it in front and seeing shots. We use tennis balls for the most part, but seeing shots around the dummies, trying to find that ball at the last second. It's definitely something I think that kind of helped me kind of prolong my game, I guess. And then I'm sure everyone's kind of seen this one where with the goal facing a wall and just shots off the wall, just kind of quick reaction drills, stuff like that. And then a lot of stuff using a short stick. I feel like for me, that was kind of a big thing. In high school, I did a good amount, but in college, I would at least 2 or 3 times a week be trying to see shots, whether it's a warm up or just shooting with guys after with a short stick. I kind of think it it's obviously a smaller stick face, so you really got to focus to make clean saves. And I would try to make as many clean saves as possible, obviously, because that's just one thing to get the stick on it. But making clean save with a short stick and making like over exaggerating, getting your head behind the head of the stick was kind of a big thing for me. So I think those are definitely a few. Then as you're always your hand eye stuff like that.
Yeah, love it. Good training right there. I love that. I love that football dummy one. Just to add like extra noise. I've seen some teams do it too with like a big tire. Like the goalies will just kind of roll the tire back and forth in front.
Yeah.
And just kind of add some noise and some chaos, and you kind of like get used to that because it's very different. Like seeing shots from a coach and there's no one around, right? And you can like focus and lock in. And all of a sudden you got you can track it. All of a sudden you got the chaos of the game, and like sometimes the youth can get a little overwhelmed. So helps to train that. Awesome. And then the boxing, yeah. I'm always interested in like unconventional things that will make lacrosse goalies a lot better. Like I played a lot of tennis and squash, and I think that is just like amazing training for goalies. But yeah, boxing too, I think is pretty good, huh?
Yeah, no, it was definitely, we didn't do it as much last year, but the year before it was basically during the fall, we did it twice a week. And it was always basically we'd switch off. He would always want to, get in there. He actually fought, my coach Jesse Foss, he fought like UFC and stuff like that.
Okay.
So he would always want to put the gloves on after. And so whatever goalie like was basically not like, we'd have like competitions and stuff. So whatever goalie was losing the competitions would have to hold the mitts for him. Definitely not fun holding the mitts for a guy who previously fought in the UFC and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. That's cool. With all your experience now, what goalie advice do you think you'd go back and give your younger self?
Just, it's definitely something I kind of would always give myself while I was playing too, but just kind of know that you got to have that kind of next shot, next goal, or next play mentality. Mm-hmm. You're going to give up goals. Like it's kind of something I try to preach when I'm coaching and stuff like that. Even just in training and running training sessions, and I'll see goalies that'll give up a goal when they're seeing 200 shots in a 2-hour session, and they get mad at themselves. And it's like you're supposed to give up goals. Like you're not coming out here to get shutouts. No one's expecting you to make every single save. So definitely that. It's more just a mindset kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And go back to like my high school self, and this is for all. And I tell all my high schoolers I work with that school is definitely the most important thing you should be focusing on in your life.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. That next shot mentality, it's mentioned so much on the podcast, but it really is like the key to strong mental game is like, can you stay positive in the face of adversity, right? When negative things happen, like, can you stay positive? When you give up a goal, can you just like go on to the next one with the same level of enthusiasm, right?
Yeah. Not always the easiest thing to do, but just finding ways to kind of like reset yourself. There's definitely games where you'll give up, three, across the game it runs. So you'll give up, 3 goals in a row, and just kind of trying to be able to kind of cool yourself down and, take that, you got 30 seconds maybe while they're walking the ball back up to the faceoff base to kind of collect yourself and regroup. And, I'd say the sooner you can kind of learn how to do that and kind of learn how to control your mental side, your mental state while you're playing, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. And it's hard. It takes a lot of practice, but it's like, at a certain level, at a certain point, like all of the goalies physically are the same. Like sometimes there's youth that are just like, physical specimens at like, 12 years old. Right. But when you get to college, like everyone's now developed, in the pros, everyone's developed. And the guys that have that strong mental game are really the ones that make it, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes, I think a lot of times the guys who have that strong mental game are the guys that kind of understand that, like, kind of, when it comes to their training and stuff. And I guess this is something else I would go back and tell myself or tell younger goalies is like, if you want to like go somewhere and with this game, and nowadays there's a lot more opportunities that are coming up with game of lacrosse. So if you want to go somewhere, there's definitely the opportunities, but you just gotta fall in love with the process and fall in love with kind of the position and the training. And a lot of times the guys that are falling in love with the process and falling in love with the position and all the hard work it takes growing up and stuff, you tend to see those are the guys who their mental games are a lot stronger. And I think when you put that amount of work into it, it's kind of like, all right, I know I can do this. And even if I'm going through a slump or giving up a bunch of goals here and there in the game, I know I've worked my butt off to get here. So, those are the guys I feel like their mental game and kind of next shot mentality is usually stronger.
Yeah, totally agree. And sometimes those are the guys too who are like are easiest to give a pep talk to get out of a funk, because all they need is just a reminder of how much work they've put in, right? Yeah. And sometimes the human mind is so fragile. It's like you'll put in, tens of thousands of hours, and then all of a sudden, like the day before a game, you're like nervous and you're like, oh man, like I'm not good, or you have a bad game and you're like, I'm not good, and you're like, wait a minute, like trust that training that you've put in. You are a good goalie. Get back out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Cool, man. Any time in your career that you went through a slump, and how'd you go about getting out of that?
Yeah. Honestly, I went through a couple in college. I played through a lot of injuries, so it would generally be like, I'd be injured and coming back. There's definitely a couple in college, and I would kind of just try to, again, see as many shots as I could. But if I really saw myself going through a slump, or like in a slump in practice, or even like a prolonged slump, something I actually learned from Johnny, and he would do when he would have taken time off in the game or was going through a slump, or trouble making saves or seeing the ball, is just get either a coach or a buddy, have him stand 20, 25 yards from the cage and just rip the ball as hard as they can at you. The extra distance, you're never going to see a 25, 30-yard shot in a game. Right. But it allows you to kind of track the ball and kind of just, you're not worrying about anything else. It takes a lot longer for the ball to get there, and you really just kind of work on seeing that ball all the way in. That's something I would do. And then I would see a lot of shots with tennis balls when I'd be going through slumps. Just kind of try to, make saves and kind of not have to worry about, getting drilled in the shins by the ball, drilled in the legs by the ball, when I need to, just work on seeing the ball in, or just work on seeing the ball out of the shooter stick and stuff like that. So I definitely say, like in college, those were the two ways I would try to work myself out of slumps.
Yeah.
And then I would say like film too. Just kind of trying to watch. We film all of our practices and obviously all our games. So going back, and if I feel like I'm in a slump or whatever it may be, just going back and trying to figure out if I can, break my game apart, and see if I'm doing something that's causing that slump, whether maybe I'm starting to dip on something, certain shots, stuff like that. It's definitely something I did throughout college for sure.
That's cool. How'd you have so many injuries? They're all playing lacrosse?
Yeah, no, it was a running joke in our team. I spent almost every year in the training room. That's for sure. My sophomore year, I broke my foot and tore a bunch of the ligaments across the top of my foot.
Oh man.
We have like we have a giant hill next to our field, and so it borders the field, and so we would have to run it for punishments and stuff like that. And we were running it one day, and it's straight up and down. So in order to run up and down, you can't run straight. You kind of got to bounce side to side. And I stepped in a snake hole and turned and twisted, and it just felt a pop. And so at the time, I was our only goalie, and so they put me in a walking boot. I didn't practice the rest of the year, but I played in every game. They would cast my foot and my leg up, give me cortisone shot, and I'd hobble out there. Wow. And it was actually, like, looking back is one of my best statistical seasons I had. And I did it right before the season started. So I had that, dislocated my jaw my freshman year. That was like my right when I got to Concordia, like my second or third practice, I took a shot from like low to high shot. My throat guard went up, it went under my throat guard and broke like the plastic piece in my helmet and blew my jaw out on both sides. That was a fun one. And then obviously just the casual broken thumb, stuff like that. You get the usual.
Yeah, that one's more common, huh?
Yeah.
Well, cool. So you just you're now the director at Crease Coach. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about what you guys got going on at Crease Coach.
Yeah, so we just wrapped up our summer. I was actually gone for most of the summer. I went to Europe for a month, so we had events all over the place. Had a lot of other coaches running them for us. We're starting to expand a little bit more. You'll see. I mean, I'm assuming by the time this podcast is out, it'll be announced. But we're adding Crease Coach Utah. So we'll have basically we're trying to start to add Crease Coach in more regions. We run weekly or twice a week events out in Southern California. And then we try to get to other states. I know this summer we got up to Seattle, Utah, and Arizona, and we were supposed to get up to San Francisco, but I had something come up. We had to cancel that one. In the fall, we're going to get up. We're definitely back to Seattle. We have one of our recruiting combines out in Vegas. We'll get out to Arizona, Colorado, San Francisco, and then Utah, obviously. And then with the adding of Utah, just kind of, it allows, now we have Crease Coach Utah. So, all of our goalies from Utah don't have to wait for us to come, out to Utah for one camp every few months.
Right.
So it'll kind of be Nick Mastergeorge, he'll be the goalie coach at Westminster University. He's going to be the, director of West Coast Utah. And I'm sure our plan kind of is to try and bring on a couple goalies, or maybe a goalie from Westminster, a goalie from University of Utah, kind of make them official Crease Coach goalies, and have them kind of help them out when it comes to running the camps and stuff like that.
Love it, man. Well, good luck with all that. Like I said before, if you need me to promote some stuff, definitely shoot it my way. I'd be happy to do that. Utah's an up and coming lacrosse hotbed, huh?
Oh yeah, I went out there to recruit for Concordia at the beginning of the summer, to one of the true showcases they had out there, and the talent was off the charts. It was all from kids from Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon.
Yeah.
And it was honestly some of the better players I've seen on the West Coast. It was really impressive for sure.
Love it. If people wanted to get some more info on those camps, should they just go to, is it creasecoach.com, or where should they go?
Yeah, creasecoach.com, or follow us on Instagram, crease_coach. Post a lot of stuff for Instagram, starting to get rolling again. A lot of reels, a lot of content coming. But yeah, creasecoach.com for sure. And then we're planning on having one giant overnight camp, like we were talking about it before we hopped on here. So I know we're gonna get a lot of stuff out about that. Should be out in US Lacrosse Magazine. Get some stuff out, some stuff from ECD. Try to get them on as a sponsor. I know we're working on that, so that should be something to look forward to this upcoming summer, 2023.
That'd be cool.
And just a couple, trying to get to as many places as possible. Just kind of grow the game.
Love it. Have you played with the new ECD Impact yet?
I have not. I need to try that out. I used the Nike, so the Nike prototype I actually got, and it still says on the side, like, do not use for prototype use only. I used it for like 2 or 3 years now, I think, and it hasn't broke. I love that head, but I definitely got to try out that ECD head for sure.
Yeah. Did they end up making changes to it, or that was kind of like the final version?
I don't know. I haven't even bought. I got like 3 of them, and I was like, well, I'm not going to go buy a head if I got these 3. And so I haven't even looked at the ones that they actually put out to market. But I mean, everything looks, the head's great. I mean, it's lasted me 2 years. So I'm assuming it's pretty close to what's probably the finished product was. But I love it. I love that head for sure.
I need to get my hands on one of those. That's one of the ones I've never played with.
That, and then they're Nike gloves, Nike goalie gloves. I love those gloves too.
Yeah, I have a pair of those. Those are awesome. Their thumb is like, it's like the biggest thumb I've seen.
Yeah.
Love it. What if I was going to put on a live clinic, what advice would you, or me, or any coach for that matter, like what do you think goes into making a great live clinic, in your opinion?
I would say shooters. You got to have good shooters that want to actually be there. As we've found over the past, since I've taken over Crease Coach, we've had great clinics. We've had clinics that we definitely know could have been better. And kind of one of the things it's always, if the shooters are there and they want to get in, and they're there to like almost get themselves better. Like they're going to work to, take good shots. They're going to work to be focused in and help the goalies get work in. Those are the clinics for us that have always been successful. Just because as a goalie, if you have a shooter that doesn't really care and is just kind of missing cage a lot, or isn't shooting the ball very accurately, or isn't giving you game-like shots, which is what you're at a clinic or some of these clinics you're at for, then it's kind of a waste of time for you. So definitely shooters. We found music 100% has to be a thing. It keeps the energy up. It just keeps the mood light. And then we've found, like, we do a lot of stations. So there's a lot of camps where you just go and it's just a lot of get reps kind of thing. And we kind of try to base our camps. We'll do those for sure. If it's kind of what the camp needs to be tailored towards, but we do a lot of station work. So, it'll be, we'll have 20 goalies, we'll have 5 cages, and 1 cage is, we have a weighted stick. So it's a weighted shaft, and working on just off stick saves, or off stick high, hip, and low, and really working on driving the hand across. Obviously it's a little harder with the weighted stick. And so we'll do all sorts of variations of stations, whether it's hand-eye stuff, reaction stuff with tennis balls. That way they're kind of getting, every aspect of, goalie work that they can get in, a 2-hour clinic that we run.
Love it, man. Sounds great. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck with Crease Coach. Good luck with Concordia coaching. You guys start fall ball pretty soon, or what's the?
Yeah, we have a training camp Labor Day weekend, so that'll be fun.
Nice.
2 or 3 practices a day for a few days, so it'll be good to get all the guys back together. And then we start rolling with the fall ball. I think that runs for a couple months, like till right before Thanksgiving, and then we kind of wrap it up and guys focus up on finals, stuff like that.
Awesome, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for coming on, sharing your knowledge. It was tons of fun. If you had to leave the goalies out there with one final piece of advice, what would that be?
Just kind of like I said earlier, have fun with the position, try different things out, but fall in love with it, fall in love with the process and the game, and it'll take you basically anywhere you want.
Love it. Tyler, man, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.